Good afternoon. The time is 4:03 p.m. This is the regularly scheduled meeting of the Public Safety Committee. I'm your chair, Dan Syme Jr. My vice chair, Tammy Hawkins, is signed in. She'll be in a few minutes. We have Dr. Barbara Shanklin, Betsy Ruey, Councilwoman Betsy Ruey, Councilwoman Jenny Mulvey-Woolridge, Councilman J.J. Jonathan Joseph, and Councilman Ken Herndon is here. And on virtual, we have Councilwoman Shamika Parrish-Wright. Thank you all for being here. Clerk, will you please read the virtual meeting language?
This meeting is being held pursuant to KRS 61.826 and Council Rule 5A, read in full.
Please note we're only going to have a special discussion today. Items number 20-087-25 and number 3R-029-25 will be held in committee at the request of the sponsors. Today we're joined by Chief Paul Humphrey and Sergeant Chris Gohegan with LMPD, Director Mark Zoller with Louisville Metro Facilities and Fleet to give us an update on LMPD's headquarters. Please come forward, state your name and title for the record, and you may begin.
Hello, I'm Sean Woods, Assistant Director of Fleet Facilities and Project Management. First slide there. So this is our LMPD headquarters site at 601 West Chestnut Street. It's a 200,000 square foot office building sitting on about 5 acres of land. Next slide, please. You got it? Thanks. So we purchased this site on May 18th, 2022 for $2.6 million. Metro contracted with Branstetter Carroll for space planning and preparation of construction documents. The designs were completed in spring of 23. We hired Calhoun Construction as the construction manager for the site and started phase one work. So the scope of that work includes the full interior building demolition, that's all 4 floors and the basement, new roof replacement, most of the central building plant equipment, including like chillers, boilers, water heaters, that sort of thing. We're doing elevator upgrades, so at the end of this first phase, all of them will be modernized in this phase. The emergency generator will be installed, and that'll take care of the entire building once all that's completed. This also includes the lobby and media room, partial build-out on the first floor, and then complete build-out of the fourth floor with furniture, AV equipment, everything included. Fourth floor occupancy can begin in fall of this year, and then additional phases will need to take place to build out the basement and first through third floors. Next slide. So here's some pictures of the demolition. As you can see, we've taken it down to the bare concrete floors and ceilings. Since the building will be occupied during future phases, we figured this would reduce the amount of noise and dust that staff in the building are going to have to deal with, since this is now going to be an occupied site under construction. And we mitigated future risk in our cost and schedule assessments because now we understand what conditions we're working with throughout the building. Next. Here's progress on our roof. This will be a cool roof, which is designed to reduce heat transfer from the roof to the building. And it's also capable of supporting solar panel system if we want to add that in the future. This is just some pictures of the construction progress. So this will include staff that were dispersed from the old LMPD headquarters that was demolished right next door on Jefferson Street. And there's some more pictures. This will be a variety of administrative offices and situation rooms. I'll let LMPD respond to any detailed questions about staffing, but that's the basic layout of this floor. And so next steps, as everybody's aware, the mayor's finalizing his budget. He'll soon be presenting that to council. He intends to keep the project moving forward in a phased approach, but those details and at what level are being worked through with OMB in the mayor's office. We're always assessing and estimating work for additional phases, but with tariffs and inflation, these are just estimates. Do you all have any questions about the construction? Okay, thank you.
Mr. Chairman, I do have a quick question. You mentioned the solar panels. How much, do you have any idea how much that would cost and how long it would take for it to pay for itself for the savings?
We haven't done an assessment of that, but we could absolutely put some numbers together for you and send them your way. We can get an estimate pretty quick. We'd have to take some time to get a more detailed assessment.
Any other questions? Nobody in the queue? Is there anyone here that can speak on the LMPD Training Center?
Yes, sir. Chief Humphrey, joined by Sergeant Chris Gohagen in our strategic planning unit, and he has been the lead on this project. So I will allow him to turn it over and give you an update on where we stand right now. But all in all, I think we're in a good place as far as planning for it, and he can give you some details of where we stand exactly.
Thank you, Chief.
Yes, sir. Chris Gohagen, Strategic Planning. So we're currently in the process of evaluating land within Jefferson County, trying to identify what would look best for our facility, what would work for the functionality and everything. I think we've possibly evaluated some of the correct places. Now we're just looking forward to moving forward with the purchase of the land. That's going to be the first step. This would be a phased-in approach. The concept is to make it a multi-agency within not only a law enforcement, but also fire, EMS, and corrections as well. We're going to try to incorporate and make it a regional training facility as well. The first phase of our project we're really in need of is a driving track. That's something that we desperately need. We currently have to drive 100 miles to Richmond, and that takes gas, hours, and often we have to tow them back because some of the driving that occurs there. So the first phase of the project would be a driving track. The second phase would be an outdoor range. That's something that we don't currently have, and that's something that was mentioned in the Hilliard-Heinz report, and also DOJ has asked us to perform some of that training outdoors. Some of the
And just to go a little bit further into detail on those two phases, the driving track is something that would be utilized by all of public safety, so it would be able to support the fire service as well as EMS in their driving, which right now we don't have a place to go. So whether it's initial driver's training for recruits, or if we're doing supplemental training, in-service training for officers that are currently on the department, that is very, very difficult. It's beg, borrow, and steal, or go all the way down to Richmond to do that. Then when you look at the status of the need for an outdoor range, currently our range is a 50-yard range. So you've heard us talk about our capacity for the police academy being at 48 officers. And God knows I would love to have 48 officers in here. Our capacity is set by the size of our range. Our range cannot support any more than that. It also is a lead-free range, which means the ammunition for that range is about 3 to 4 times more expensive than if we were on an outdoor range. So you can imagine the cost savings that we would eventually see, as well as there's probably some health benefits of not being indoors in that range all the time, as well as functionality. So when you're talking about the use of whether it's pistols or rifles, the ability to move and conduct training in a way that is conducive to recreating real-world elements, you cannot do that on a static range indoors. It makes it very, very difficult. So oftentimes, many of the classes that we do conduct, we have to go either over to Indiana or down to Fort Knox to find outdoor ranges, which we pay to rent those, and we obviously do not control the schedule or availability for those. So you're talking about two very high liability things that are critical tasks that we have to train and perform on, that we do not really functionally control the ability to conduct that type of training. So that's why those two things would be the first and most important phase.
Is it funded?
Right now, I believe there will be a budget request in this next budget cycle that will go towards both land acquisition and development.
Another question. What are the training that you're having to do out in other areas like Richmond that's most important to have here?
Well, particularly the driver's training is what we go all the way down to Richmond for. They're one of the few tracks in the state of Kentucky. So that's an opportunity for us to, as he said, if you're talking about taking a recruit class through driver's training, that's I believe a week-long class, maybe a little bit longer for the recruits. But they have to do some driver's training in parking lots and like the Fair and Exposition Center that we beg, borrow, and steal space over there, depending on their schedule at the time of the year. It also creates damage to their facility as well. It's not exactly like it's, the type of driving that doesn't leave skid marks and all that type of stuff. We are trying to train officers to drive safely in dangerous conditions and teach them how to do that appropriately. So we cannot functionally do that within the city of Louisville. There is not a facility that exists. And there's not one that's close. So while we might be able to go just across the river to Indiana or down to Fort Knox in order to be able to get on an outdoor range, we have nowhere to drive. Emergency driving is required initial training, and then it's required follow-up training by state law that we have to have emergency driver's training at least every 2 years. So right now, functionally, we cannot do that in a way that I think is satisfactory.
Thank you, Chief. We have Councilwoman Rui in the queue, please.
Thank you very much. So how many acres are you looking for the site?
So some of the architects that we've discussed this with, some of the training facilities that they've designed throughout the United States, we're looking close to 100 acres.
Okay, and how long is the track that you're wishing to design?
Again, this is kind of an industry standard. They're looking anywhere between 1.5 miles, and they have different turns and parking lot features and things like that, but about 1.5 to 2 miles.
Okay, and just for my own history, there was a training center out near Long Run Park many years ago. What happened to that?
So that was the Southfields training facility that was originally with the county police, and I think you'll have to reach back in the annals of history and ask some previous administrations before any of us were in these seats.
Okay, I just remember it being there, and it's like then we suddenly have nothing.
Yeah, I think I may have actually been the last class to use that facility at all, and we didn't use it for the track or anything like that. We went out there one day for some crowd control stuff or something
And
like
how
that.
many years ago was that?
Now you have to try to embarrass me and talk about my age.
No, I'm not.
No, that was 18, 19 years ago.
Okay.
So it's not been in use for a long time.
So you guys have been a long time just trying to make do with less then.
Yeah, and unfortunately, the type of training that we have to do, or whether it's driver's training or else, otherwise, it's not exactly training that's good on facilities. Like we tear stuff up. That's kind of the nature of training. And so while we beg, borrow, and steal, we often get kicked out of places because we are hard on equipment. And so we have to push training to the limits so that officers understand where the limits are and how to operate within those limits. And that's often hard on the facilities, whether it's a driving track or a tack house to learn how to clear structures. And so we need to be able to control that to make sure that we can do that in a satisfactory way and consistently.
Thank you.
Vice Chair Hawkins, please.
Thank you, Chair. Thanks for being here today.
Yes, ma'am.
So I guess I got a couple questions. My first question is so the new officers that come in, you have been having to take them to another location for a shooting range, for driving and things like that, right?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, so can you just give a roundabout on what that is costing the department to do that? Or are you not sure?
I'm not sure I have the current. I know we calculated. Do you remember when we did that years ago? So we had calculated that price, that cost back when Assistant Chief Kerr and I were over at the academy. But you're also talking about 5 years ago for a different thing. So we can try to get that
Okay.
updated for you.
Okay, and I'm saying that to say that I know that the city already has a lot of land in the land bank, that we could be looking at, but if you're sitting here, telling us that you need somewhere to train your men and the staff that come in, that speaks volume to me. I would definitely love to see that here, us to have that training. I feel like that will help our officers. Having to go somewhere else, that's not good. And I appreciate your honesty with even bringing that up, saying that, you all coming to us asking for that. I think that would be, a great access to us and to the department to give the officers the training that they need. I think training is the biggest. Driving, shooting, just having that in place and not already having that, I think is information that a lot of my colleagues, probably need to know. So just being able to have that information, I would definitely be in support of something like that.
Yes, ma'am, and I appreciate that. And just kind of to a follow-up, I know you didn't ask me a question, so I apologize if I'm out of turn, but if we're talking about holding officers to a high standard, we have to be able to train them to a high standard. And the better we can train them, the more frequently we can train them, the better off they're going to perform. And in that sense, you're talking about not only reducing cost from the standpoint of how much it costs wear and tear on vehicles to drive back and forth, time that we're having to pay in overtime to stay overnight down in Richmond, all those types of things. But you're also talking about a level of performance that should reduce liability in the long term. And so when we are able to really hone in the skills of officers, it keeps the community safer, it keeps officers safer. And just along the same lines as the Wellness Center, it shows officers that the city is dedicated to making sure that they perform at a high standard and giving them the resources to do so.
I'm sorry. So would corrections be able to also use that facility?
Yes, ma'am. It would be, particularly the driving track, if we're talking about that first phase, the driving track and the range. Right now, we already have numerous agencies that come and shoot with us. For instance, I don't think most people know that the Louisville Zoo has to qualify in shooting. Because they have very large animals. And so if something happened, they have to be capable of dealing with that. So they come over here to qualify. That gives us more ability to help other agencies as well as LMPD.
Well, and I also think that it's just some things we just have to have, especially to be able to hold LMPD accountable, which some of us definitely want to do that. If we have any bad actors. But I also think it's the lack of knowledge because, those of us who haven't been here for years, and I don't think none of us that's in the committee right now really have been here for years. I didn't know that. So, to be able to share that with my colleagues, and if there is any more information or any other tools that you all need to make sure that you're successful so we can have great actors all across the board, right? I'm definitely willing to support that.
Yes, ma'am, and I think when we're talking about things like bad actors, I think they separate themselves, and we're talking about the people who have a poor performance with good intention. And so we want to make sure that all of the successes that we have are because we've given the officers all of the resources in order to perform well. And then when they don't, we're able to hold them accountable to that. And a lot of times performance mistakes need to be corrected through a training regimen to make sure that they understand the expectations and have the skills to live up to it.
So basically just exhausting every tool that you can have.
Yes,
I understand
ma'am.
that.
No excuses.
That's fair.
Councilman Ken Herndon, please.
Yes, a question regarding, to follow up on what we spend here to rent other people's facilities. If we had our own state-of-the-art facility, could we reverse that and rent it to others? Or would you use it all the time, or would there be time to invite other adjacent folks to do it?
Yes, sir. Public safety isn't a sole job of Louisville Metro Police. It's every agency that operates within this city. both local, state, and federal. And we've talked to many of those agencies already about being able to partner with them. We've already had, Sergeant Gohagan just gave me the number, 19 other agencies that we've discussed this with. And so the ability to bring them in and understand that we might cooperate at different points in incidents, and be able to actually functionally train together. That is something that we think would be a good thing for the entire community.
And recoup a couple of bucks in the process.
You would hope so.
Yeah, okay.
Councilwoman Woolridge, please.
Thank you. Thank you for being here. As many know, obviously my husband has come from LMPD. He's also with the training department with the sheriffs, and I know I've seen him put together many training incidents, such as driving in parking lots. It's definitely not the same of driving on a track or driving in inclement weather, and that's something that the track you can have, right? Not only nighttime driving, but in that inclement weather. That goes to the same for a range, and being able to have that nighttime range, being able to have inclement weather, put rain in there or whatever it may be, but be able to save the money, not have to rent it. But I think that's all big, as well as having it all in one location. I know that Brad was in years ago. I know Councilwoman Rui referenced the South Park. He actually was one that was there. But you had the drying, you had the physical training, you had the classroom, everything in one location. That saves not only time and money, it saves, as Chief Humphrey said, the time of driving, the stay, all of it. So you have the classroom, the physical fitness, thank goodness for the foundation of having that wellness center, but you have everything together. So I'm definitely in support of this.
Vice Chair Hawkins.
I want to follow back up on the sharing it. So for corrections, will they be able to share like the time, the classrooms, everything across the board?
Yes, ma'am, and that's the plan when we talk about a phased plan, is to ultimately have enough classroom space out there to accommodate everyone. Right now, the building that we're in at 2911 Taylor Boulevard, we do share that with corrections right now. I'm not here to speak for Mr. Collins and all of corrections, but I can probably safely say they are not satisfied with the amount of space that they have as well. I mean, let's talk about some really practical things. If you're talking about, if we're running a recruit class, a corrections class, usually we often run 2 overlapping recruit classes, an in-service class, you might have anywhere upwards of 200 people in that building at a time. We only have like 110 parking spots. So just the practicality of it, to be able to train appropriately is we're not there even at the classroom space. So the ability to ultimately get to a place where we can train in adequate modern facilities is going to be like the headquarters project and the training project. I rank it up there with what you all did with the wellness center. These are seminal changes for the police department, and it forces us to hold ourselves to a higher standard because we understand the commitment that the entire city has put behind supporting the police department. And so I think this is an opportunity that we need to take advantage of right now. Yeah, the fire department would also be able to supplement their classroom space from over on Hill Street.
Okay, is Collins here? Okay, yeah. Could you come up and just speak to corrections using it? And if it would benefit, things like that?
Yes, ma'am. Everything that Chief Humphrey said, we've been on discussions with this from the beginning. And as Chief said, we're all running 4 or 5 classes a year in one small building right now with not adequate space. We also do overlapping training, whether it be defensive tactics, range time. We also have to go to Indiana to several ranges and pay for that. And then when we shoot at the police range, as the Chief stated, that is a non-lead ammunition, which is 3 times more expensive than regular ammunition. So the addition also that since Southfield was, and Chief, we'll age ourselves, I graduated from Southfield in 2000. with that track, it's really limited our driving training. We don't have the ability to go to Richmond to do that, and I don't think people realize how many times a day we're out on the street, whether it be home incarceration or transporting folks to other jails and prisons and clinic runs and things of that nature. That would greatly benefit the Department of Corrections.
Okay. I don't know if anyone else has any other questions, but I would also like Chief O'Neill to come up and speak to see how it would benefit you all as well.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you for allowing me to be here. I just want to really echo everything that he said. So we do have a good training facility down at 15th and Hill, but when it comes to like special units, we're always having to seek places. For instance, swiftwater training is something that obviously we've done a lot here recently. To get our people certified in swiftwater training, we have to go to Rough River Lake. This is now wouldn't be a first or second phase, but we could build a swiftwater facility. It's a big fancy swimming pool. Another thing that we do, structural collapse. You look at tornadoes, things like that. Trench rescue, confined space rescue. You set up props for these, and we're always having to look for areas. If we can find some open land, dig a hole, use it, refill it back in. But you can buy and set up props so you can have something like that permanent. And this wouldn't just be for Louisville Fire. It would be for the county fire departments as well. We do a lot of training together, and this would be a great facility that we could all utilize. And to echo what they said as well, we've been really working. The state is doing better on the fire side and rescue side of trying to create regional teams for responses such as for large-scale disasters. We are already setting up as a regional training facility. This would just make us that much better.
Thank you.
I'm sorry I didn't recognize Shamika Parrish Wright as being in the chambers, but she's asked to speak, so.
Thank you,
Councilwoman
Mr. Chair.
Wright.
No worries. I really want to be on record to say that I support this. Anything that helps make sure that our officers have what they need to do their job, I think this is great. Training makes sense. Nobody is above professional and personal development, so to hear that there's an ongoing initiative to make sure that that is prominent makes sense to me. My question is around 100 acres, miles of track, a couple miles of track. Do you think that that's feasible within Jefferson County? I would like to see it in our county. Or are you looking at other places around Jefferson County?
Yes, ma'am, and first of all, I want to say I appreciate your support for it. I think building the culture of continuous improvement is part of our goal here, and so I appreciate that support. Looking at property in Jefferson County to find somewhere between 60 and 100 acres is obviously very difficult. And the land-baked lands and a lot of the lands that are available, the large patches of land, they're not necessarily ripe for development of this type. They're very hilly or they're in floodplains, and we can operate in some of the floodplains. But this would be something that's going to be either out in the county or very close across the county line. This is going to be something that would be outside, definitely outside the Watterson, probably outside the Gene Snyder in order to find that much land. But I would love to be able to keep it inside the county if we can. That has proven a tall task to be able to pull off, but that is our goal.
I'm going to give a shameless plug for Southwest Jefferson County. I know you guys are looking out there. We need police presence, and I think would bring a lot. So please consider around Gene Snyder and Dixie like you are.
Yes, sir. We have definitely been looking very heavily out in that area of the county.
Thank you. And Councilman Joseph would like to speak, please.
Chair Simon, I wasn't listening. Where did you say what part of Louisville you'd like for it to be?
Southwest Louisville.
Southwest. I just wanted to make sure we're on the same page. Thank you all for being here. I think I'm a school teacher by day, and I recognize that sometimes you all, no matter who's here today, service-wise, don't get the props that you deserve for all that you do, and extremely grateful. And I think there's a lot of unsung heroes in this room back here. My two quick questions for you. First of all, ideally, financially, what does a training facility cost?
Can you give them the first phase cost and then the overall if we were going complete? So there, obviously, we've phased this out to where it would be in stages similar to the way that we've done the headquarters project. And so there is the kind of basic minimum cost land acquisition, track, a basic classroom facility, all the way up to being able to have swift water rescue and all of those types of things built in. So I think he can give you some of the phase costs.
Yes, so the first phase, with it being a driver's track in mind, nationwide, talking with our architect, they've given us a price of approximately $8.5 million for a track. Now that could be, kind of high because we haven't bid it out. We've been pretty successful with some of the bids for headquarters as far as lowering the cost. So that could be lowered, but a shooting range, another estimate could be around $2.5 million for an outdoor range.
Okay. And then my other quick question was regarding the average employee with either LMPD or with the fire department. How many times would you say the average employee would use a facility a year, if that makes sense?
So currently, the state requirement is that we have 40 hours of in-service a year. We've broken that up into 16-hour blocks. So you're talking about approximately 1,000 hours is spent in the academy as a recruit. Every year you go back for somewhere between 40 and 60 hours of in-service training, plus 2 to 3 days of firearms training. So you are talking about spending upwards of 2+ weeks a year for each individual officer in training. I'm not sure what the continuing ed requirements are for the fire and police, or fire and EMS or corrections, but in all honesty, I still don't think that's enough. I would love to be able to train far more than what we do.
Councilman Herndon, please.
Yes, I don't think there's that kind of room in my district, so I'll stay out of that tug of war. But one question, would you be able to safely use a brownfield site in this?
That is probably a question for facilities on the brownfield.
I asked because if brownfield, which would require remediation for another use, would therefore be less valuable, therefore be more affordable, would that be possible to do that with safely?
Mark Zoller, Director of Facilities and Fleet. Every site's going to be a little bit individual on the requirements for it. Generally, if you're not doing soil penetrations, so for the driving track or possibly the outdoor range, that may work. The larger master plan for this campus involves buildings and foundations, which may not be appropriate on brownfield. As the chief mentioned, we have looked at some properties that were partial floodplain because we could incorporate different elements of the master plan into those areas. So just being a brownfield alone does not necessarily rule it out. It would be something we would still look at.
Okay. Yes. Okay.
Question, what are the funding mechanisms? Are we getting federal funding?
Right now, we don't have any federal funding. No, sir.
Any more questions? Concerns? No more speakers in the queue? No more comments? Hearing none. Our next regularly scheduled Public Safety Committee meeting will be held Wednesday, May 7th at 4 p.m. Thank you all for your time today. We appreciate you officers, Corrections, Collins. Thank you all. Let your officers know we got their backs. We care for them. We appreciate them. We're adjourned. Thank you all.
Thank you. Thank you.